Greetings. This is Connor Greenwell, and today I want to talk to you about my motivations. Why make art? Why do anything? When we're young, our parents, guardians, and teachers and so forth will do their best to put good values and good habits into us. And most of us will adopt those values and probably carry them through into adulthood. It's quite ordinary for a person to be taught something at a young age and to perhaps believe it for most of their life. However, there are some of us that, no matter how good or well intentioned the message, we simply can't receive it in that format. Some of us are perhaps like me and just a little bit more defiant. Some would call it even rebellious. But what I'm really talking about is where values are derived from. And I think that can be a thing that's very individual to each person. Now, individually, it has been my experience that many of the values that I hold to are things that I've discovered myself. Because I can actually honestly say that most of what was given to me when I was young, I've flat out rejected it straight out of hand. And without going into the specifics of why I rejected some of those values, I can boil it down to one essential factor. And that is for me to invest time, effort, or energy into anything, I have to believe in it for myself. I am not an individual who can have an authority set above him. I am not a person who can be told what to do. It's just not in my nature to be obedient, and it never has been. Now, I understand how this could raise concerns. Oh no, disobedient doesn't care about the law or ethics or culture. I did not say that. I did not say that at all. All I am implying is that my reasons absolutely must be my own, or I will not get it done. I am a person who believes that your values must be discovered and determined for yourself by yourself, and that we make the greatest mistake when we try to project those values onto other people. Now, am I sitting here saying that I'm a saint or some sort of good person? Of course not. I'm an asshole, and I'll admit it. I'll admit it any day. I know I'm an asshole. But I'm your asshole, and that's why you love me. So thank you for listening to this recording today. But on a serious note, allow me to say this. My tendency to be an asshole who won't listen to anyone and does things for reasons completely his own is also tempered by compassion. I only let my asshole factor go as far as will not cause direct suffering for other people. Now, I'm not referring to suffering that people take onto themselves by being offended by something or not understanding the value of what someone is doing, or by making any other kinds of assumptions or projections about the thing. If I make a piece of art, or music, or a picture, or a book, and you don't like it and you become upset because what I said was wrong or evil or something, I'm sorry, but that's on you. But if I were to go out of my way to take a baseball bat and smash someone in the face with it, well, obviously that would be crossing of those boundaries. I would be taking my desire too far and harming another person. So see, one is very direct and the other one is assumed or projected. So, I'm free, am I not? If I don't believe in authority and I have nothing standing above me, what in hell am I guided by? And some people might think that's appropriate. Oh, that's the road to hell, individuated thinking. Not so sure about that. I really believe that the best way to be happy in life is to question absolutely everything. I really do. And I think it's completely necessary, essential, for a human being at some point to take every value that they were ever given when they were younger and examine it. Seriously question it and say, does this really hold up? Does it work? Is this a theory? Can I test it? This is the old way of doing philosophy. You take an idea and you test it in the world and see if it's true. There are many armchair philosophers who will talk about various ideas. Sure, I can be one of those people too. But when it comes right down to it, if I have a value that I believe in or a motivation that I want to follow, it's because I've had some sort of life experience that has led me to that conclusion after very thoughtful and careful and lengthy examination of the idea. Also, I have to take into consideration that I exist on the Asperger's spectrum, which means that I also don't think like a lot of other people, and similar to people who live with autism, oftentimes this personality type hates to be told what to do. Even if it's something we should do or we know we should do it. I'll give you an example. If I had a stack of dirty dishes and there was flies buzzing around it and the house is terrible, and you said to me, hey, get those dirty dishes done, I'm going to flip you off and tell you to go fuck yourself, just on principle. It's how I'm wired, it's who I am, and I make no apologies for it. But at the same time, if a person said to me, hey, that seems out of control, do you think you could get those dishes done? I'd likely look at you and the dishes and go, oh God, you're right. Yeah, I should really take care of that. See, it's all about motivation and who sets it. If I can't set the motivation for myself, I will not do it. So when I have motivations about things, I'm not thinking about the law. I'm not thinking about morals. I'm not thinking about values. I'm not thinking about what God wants or what a political party wants or what anyone else wants when I do a thing. When I do a thing, I do it because I have the desire to do it, and I don't see an outcome in which I'm causing other people suffering with it. There are no other factors whatsoever. And can I be wrong about that? Of course I can. I'm often wrong. I'm probably wrong more often than I'm right. But that's the learning process. That's how wisdom is gleaned. You fuck up. You make mistakes. You try things. You fail. You examine all of this and you learn. So, by examining my life, I've been able to figure out what things motivate me and what things don't. So, here are some things that really motivate me. Here are some things that push me in the direction of, oh, I want to do that. Is something passionate? Is it beautiful? Does it have a quality aesthetic that I love? Does it have a sound that I love? Is it something that I feel like I would like to emulate because I see some sort of beauty in it or some sort of usefulness? Yes, these are things that I will go after. Will I do something because I feel bad about not doing something? Never. I was watching this video once of a man speaking, and he was talking about how he was not like the other millionaires and he felt terrible if he didn't give money away and things like that. And I'm thinking to myself, look at this just horrible virtue signal. I mean, compelled by guilt and shame? I have not found guilt or shame to be motivators or even to have any utility as emotional tools. In fact, I find shame and regret and those types of negative emotions to be wholly crippling and debilitating. I've lived with that for far too long. I really believe if a person is going to do something good, it should be out of pure compassion, not because they feel bad that they're not. Because ultimately, guilt, coercion, things like that, I don't think those are good motivators. I just don't. So when I do or don't do something, it's not because the law says not to. It's not because God said not to. It's not because someone, is holding anything over me. I don't give two shits what the law says. If it becomes illegal to become a freely expressive person who makes art, then I will gladly become a criminal. If there are certain thoughts or words that become illegal, that will not stop me from using them. I don't care if it goes so far as I get my head in a guillotine, I will not stop. I am what I am, and I'm going to embrace it. This is part of how I live. And part of the reason that I've embraced this philosophy of freedom tempered by compassion, tempered by understanding suffering, so that I don't input it onto others. This philosophy comes from a long history of watching the results of law and policy. Law and policy, I believe, have only the power to destroy and kill and harm. I'm very anti-authority. I'm quite anti-policy, and obviously an anarchist. That goes without saying if one wants to put me in that particular pocket and make whatever assumptions one would make about that particular group of people. But I think anarchy is brilliantly beautiful if it's tempered by some sort of compassion, or at least the desire to not cause undue suffering through said anarchy. This would be the difference between banging the drums loudly or setting a building on fire. Banging the drums loudly, it's just chaos and it's loud and it might be irritating to someone. Set a building on fire, obviously you cause a lot of suffering. But many people might assume, errantly, that the person who says, I have no laws, I have no rules, and I don't submit to authority, there might be an assumption that this person is automatically some sort of ne'er-do-well, some sort of criminal miscreant, troublemaker, doesn't give a shit about anyone or anything. And I can tell you this isn't true, not just from my own experience. I've met other people kind of like myself, and it actually turns out that people who have low regard for the law turn out to oftentimes be very compassionate people who care more about what they feel is right than what everyone else thinks is right. Sometimes we go against the grain, and sometimes we get hurt. So if you see in my activities, in my words, in my art, or in anything that I do, if it looks like I'm raising my middle fingers to you, not really. A tiny bit, but not really. What I'm really doing is just expressing what I really feel, with complete disregard for what anyone thinks about it. And I do this only for the reason of showing that it can be done. And because, well, I have a lot of catching up to do in that department. I didn't have all that expressive an outlet as a youth. But I do have one now. It's called art. And I'm working on the written word and the spoken word and the pictures that I make. I've designed a game that's not fully illustrated yet. I'm working on a whole bunch of things. And the reason that I do these things is because I found myself to be completely inadequate at doing anything else. I got the hair job. The hair job. I got the haircut. I got the, quote, real job. I tried joining the military. That did not work. I tried working in a car garage. That did not work. I tried working in restaurants, in grocery stores, construction. Every single type of job or occupation that I've ever done has done nothing but fill me with a sense of crippling existential dread and depression. I cannot work an ordinary job. I cannot physically or mentally do it. And I discovered this the hard way, bouncing from job to job to job, financial insecurity all the time, always finding myself in situations where I'm homeless and in a bad way and having mental breakdowns and all of this. And eventually I learned, well, I am just not cut out for this system. It doesn't work for me. The whole grind and get money and have kids and a wife and a fence and a dog, none of that appeals to me and none of that works for me. I don't give a flying fuck about any of those. I really don't. What I do care about is creating something that I love. I care about creation itself. And now we're getting into, why do I make art? Art is this beautiful mistress who is both lovely and cruel. It requires suffering to even get close to her. And yet when you do, her beauty is so radiant that you are overcome with passion for doing this thing. This is why I write a book. This is why I make a comic book. I I experience the transcendent. I experience connection to the divine when I create something. And sometimes it rips me apart. Sometimes I break down crying while I'm writing something. Sometimes I write about something and I get so angry I can't even speak to people for a day. Sometimes I get physically sick with the turmoil that I cause myself through method writing and making all of the creations that I make. But I consider absolutely all of it to be completely worth it in the end, because in the end I've created. And as far as I'm concerned, the most divine thing a person can do is to think and create, to put something where it was not before, to to manifest something into this world through action, through speech, and hopefully, maybe with a little luck and a little enlightenment and a little, compassion and maybe a few hints on the way, maybe we can make something beautiful. Maybe we can make something that'll make people think. Maybe we can make something that'll piss off people and make them really think. Maybe we can make something that makes everyone question everything. And that is my goal with a lot of what I've done. If you're not familiar with my comic book series, Super Meta Turkey Brothers, a little shameless plug there, they're a pair of anthropomorphic turkey people, and they end up in all kinds of silly situations using video game humor, but at the same time they mock everything. They mock religion, they mock politics, they mock Trump, Biden, you name it. Uh, it's all in there. They mock culture and society, and the reason that I do that is that I see much of this world as a hilarious joke. I really do. I see the systems in place and the buffoons running it, and I think to myself, wow, how is this shit even still together? How is any of this functioning? And then I come to a place of gratitude because I understand, wow, it's just held together by a thread. And yet here we are. And today I get to. Today I get to make this recording. Today I get to write down some words if I want. Today I get to take a picture. And people complain about so many things: the economy, this oppressed class or person or thing, or this thing isn't right, and that war is going on over there. And granted, those things are absolutely fucking terrible. But if you don't have the power to change it, eh, what's the point in even thinking about it? I don't see the point in becoming concerned with all of the world's woes, especially when I didn't cause them. I'm not saying I'm innocent and I've never caused anybody woes. As I said before, I'm an asshole and I'm not afraid to admit it. I know I've done wrong. I know I've been bad. And I know that sometimes I accidentally hurt people. But at least I'm being fucking authentic about it. There's nothing more, personally, more of a turnoff than that whole sort of, I'm so good, look, I'm not like them. We're not like those people. You have the saved and then you have the damned. Yes, and I'm the saved and you're the damned. Oh, I want you to be like me. Well, go fuck yourself. Okay? That's what I think of that. I think, really, comes right down to it. Tolerance is everything. And, and what I mean by tolerance here is not to be taken too far. I'll give you an example. I don't agree with that person over there having a gun. I don't agree with that person over there having an abortion. You know? Well, too bad. Is it yours? No? Then shut up. Just shut up. It's none of your fucking business. Work on your own life. Work on yourself, just like I'm doing. I don't care if you have a gun or an abortion or who you voted for. It means jack shit to me. Who are you? I don't care what you voted for, what color you wore, what party you're in, what religion you're a part of. That doesn't mean jack shit to me, because those are just group constructs that we get caught up in that flavor and color all of our thinking and take away our individuality in so many just horrific ways, I do believe. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be considerate of others. It doesn't mean that we don't think, gee, I shouldn't be too loud and disturb those people over there. It doesn't mean that I think I'll just drive whatever speed I want and run over all the animals on the road. It doesn't mean that. It just means that what other people think of me doesn't fucking matter to me. That's the place that I'm getting to. And that's part of why I make art. I make art because I love it. Because there's nothing I'd rather be doing. I don't want $1 billion and a Lamborghini and 12 women around me and in bikinis with a pool. That shit can go fuck itself. There's no happiness in that, anyways. Most successful people are way unhappy, profoundly unhappy. And some of the happiest people I've met are a lot like me. They barely have two shit sticks to rub together, but they're happy somehow. Because happiness is not in getting what you want. It's in wanting what you have. And I know I'm ripping these lyrics from a '90s female singer. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. But anyways, the point that I'm making here is that I'm learning to embrace everything that comes to me as best as I can and make the most out of it. I know the world is a terrible and fucked up place, and I know our leaders are greedy and maniacal and absent minded and stupid and racist and sexist and whatever else. I know that. I know all that stuff. But as soon as we put people in boxes and then start to make assumptions about them, we have gone completely off the rails. When we deny a person their individuality, their humanity, that individual spark that makes them who they are, and we put them in a box, we put them in a category: Republican, Democrat, uh, Christian, Buddhist. Oh, what was that other category they used to use when I was little? It was, oh yes, it was us in the secular world. Anything that was non-Christian was called secular. Well, what in the hell is with all this division, this whole philosophy in this world but not of it? Have you looked around? You're in it. You're of it. You came from it. The very language that you speak came from it. You wouldn't be able to speak or live without the food that comes out of it, the jobs, the culture. We're so interconnected that it's blazingly obvious to me that there's really not much of any such thing as other. Yes, there's people who don't agree with me, but I bet under the same circumstances, if I grew up out of whatever they came from, I bet I would be exactly like them. So I can't criticize. I know I can't. At the same time, there's something to be said for nature over nurture, because I was certainly given a certain nurture and I didn't adapt to it very well. In fact, my nature won out in the end. There is that argument. But still, I think we lose ourselves when we get caught up in what something outside of us tells us to do. I think that's where the real work comes in, where we start. We there's this old Zen koan. It's like a wise saying, sort of, in the Eastern philosophy. It says, "If you meet Buddha on the road, kill him." And they didn't mean to literally find the Buddha on the road and kill him or something. What they meant was that you have such a sovereignty of experience is that at a certain point you must let go of your masters and your teachers and make your own way. Uh, it's very similar to the idea that we come up in culture and we're taught all these things, but we're never told that, hey, these are the rules we're living by right now, but when you get older, you might be able to invent better ones. No, we're never told that. Instead, we're just told, here are the rules, and you better do it, or else you're not like you're not a human. You're not like us. This is just an error in programming. It's kind of a travesty, really. It's sad that so many people never discover who or what they actually are because they never authentically questioned anything that's been handed down to them. And it was just a fortunate set of circumstances that made me question everything and come to be who I am. And any suffering that I got out of that, I am willing to say is at least partially self-inflicted. It's there's an old saying, it's not what happened to you that hurt, it's how you reacted to it. I think that is partially true. But what I really glean, what I value out of the suffering that I had in my earlier days, not fitting into anything or anywhere and just feeling alien and lost and alone in it, is that it pointed me to who I actually was. It took all of the things that I wasn't, that I was being shown that I was, for me to discover what I really was. It reminds me of this Disturbed song that says, "Sometimes it takes darkness to show you the light." And it's about this guy who gets horribly burned in a fire. He's a firefighter, and he's all ugly, and he hates himself, and then he meets this girl during physical therapy, and they end up getting married, and all this wonderful stuff happens. a beautiful tragedy, a horrific miracle. It depends on how you want to look at it, but I believe that's possible for all of us. I believe that the creative process, that the entire ability to create and make art comes from suffering itself. I really believe that there is something about suffering that is in itself transcendent and beautiful and wonderful. And yes, it hurts. It's uncomfortable, and we hate it when we're there, and we don't like to see ourselves or anyone else suffer. And I'm all for reducing suffering the world over by being as lovely and peaceful and tolerant to each other as we can be. But at the same time, we all must absolutely be, I believe, our authentic selves. And there isn't room for that in the world if we're intolerant. You can't have authenticity and intolerance in the same room together. They just won't get along. So this is something that I'm working on in myself all the time. There are all kinds of ideologies I don't like. There are all kinds of ideas I don't like. There are all kinds of little sects and cults and crazy things, political parties and all this, and I could go on the internet all day rallying against this stuff and talking about how stupid it is and whatever. But at the end of the day, I don't want my content to be about someone else. I want my content to be about me because I'm the creator of it. And essentially it comes from me and it is me. Maybe you haven't talked to me in a long time. Maybe you've only heard things about me, or maybe I'm just a picture, or maybe you've randomly found this video somewhere. But if you want to get to know who and what I really am, look at my writings, look at my art, because I firmly believe that the mask is more honest than the person underneath it. And because I believe that, that is why I show you my mask, in hopes of being naked in front of you so that you can see who I really am, so that in the end, if you love me or you hate me or anything in between, at least it was for the right fucking reason, because I showed you what I really am. That is why I make art. And it's lovely to me. It's beautiful. I find fulfillment in it. And if I never make any money on it my entire life, I'm still going to do it until I die. Well, this has been a fun little rant, and I appreciate you listening to me this whole time. I know that I have injected a little tiny bit of my own philosophy and ideology into this, but as an individual person, it can't be helped. I think what I think, and it's very hard to change my mind. I'm stubborn that way, especially when I've come to the conclusion through my own examination of the subject fully. But I wanted to sit here with you and tell you why I make art, how I think, and why I do anything that I do, where I sit with relation to authority and guilt and all that. I don't believe in authority. I think authority is a lie. I think it has only the power to crush and destroy. And I think that compassion and love can do so much more wonderful things than authority, laws, and rules ever can. And I think the more compassion we have, the less authority we'll need. And the more compassion and love and tolerance we have, the less law we will need, the less wars we will have. And I know this sounds like some sort of impossible hippie pipe dream, but I think we're capable of it. I really do think we are. And I think part of how we get there is by creating beautiful things and sharing them with everyone else. Thank you very much for listening to this recording, and I hope that you have an absolutely wonderful day. Namaste.